My name's Tommy Rowe, I'm a filmmaker from Devon in the UK. A few months ago I produced the promo video for the firmware updates to the BGH1 and the GH5S, the firmware updates that would open up ProRes RAW to those cameras. So when Atomos contacted me about producing the promo film for the BS1H, I was really excited to try out LUMIX's new full-frame box camera. So I've been using the Ninja V for a few years now, and it is absolutely integral to my kit. Not only is it a fantastic production monitor, but it also expands the functionality of the cameras that I use. It gives you the flexibility of ProRes as well as opening up the power of ProRes RAW. As a production monitor, the form factor is amazing, especially for what I do. It has all of the monitoring tools on there that I use frequently. The other great thing with the Ninja V is they are so reliable. Over the years I've thrown all sorts of conditions at them.
Dry this off.
You've got confidence that the kit isn't going to let you down, and for me and the kind of work that I do, that's really important. The concept for the Horizon film really came from a friend of mine and fellow filmmaker called Hodge. He left the Royal Marines in March 2020, just before the world changed, having left the security of a full-time job and a career in the armed forces to pursue his love for filmmaking, and then the world changed. So this is something that Sean and I had discussed previously. We thought it'd be a great idea to make a little film about him. The fact that it's a true story about a real person, I think that's something that other people will connect with. And the thing that stuck out to me was the fact that he used his motorbike to clear his head and give him a slightly different perspective when things were getting really tough. There's a huge opportunity there from a filmmaking perspective. Sean's very interesting story with the opportunity for cool visuals with the motorbike. So I had this idea to start the film moody, dark, lost in fog, as it's. Yeah, thanks. I did love that opening. And then finish with golden hour, bright, to kind of represent how he's now looking ahead to that horizon, and he's actually looking forward to it again. Part of the problem that we experienced was weather in this part of the world. It's very changeable, but it also gave us something to work with the weather being a metaphor for how he was feeling, and we were lucky that it all planned out as we wanted it to. So day one of the shoot, we decided to get ourselves out very early in the morning to shoot some scenes of Sean on his bike, but the main purpose really was to shoot a cool intro to the film that would really sell the place he found himself in. Quite alone, and he couldn't see the horizon. He couldn't see a way through this wall of fog. So we found this lone rock. We were very lucky that the weather conditions were perfect to really represent that.
Things. Yeah. On one of them I might stand right in the middle of the road. Yeah, so just don't hit me.
For these shots and the opening sequence, I was using two BS1H and Ninja V rigs, a gimbal setup for the tracking shots, and then a handheld rig.
Just go just past me, then come back in here. Yeah.
Settings wise, I shot everything in these scenes at 5.9K, 23.98 frames per second. I only used two lenses in these shots, the LUMIX 24-105 f4 and the 50mm f1.4. We started off by grabbing some ride-bys in the foggy weather.
That's a fair speed.
I did feel for Sean a bit because it was pretty cold and wet, but he took it in his stride.
So far, we've got like 2 shots.
10 passes, 2 shots.
Hopefully it clears up a bit.
I've got something on my front brake is ticking.
Oh really?
Yeah.
The weather was actually the main challenge really. We were on high ground, basically in cloud. The moisture was just in the air all around you and everything was getting soaked.
On mine then. Yeah. Just gonna try and dry this off a little bit.
But again, it's really testament to the reliability of this setup and the camera and the Ninja that there were no issues at all.
I'm going to go handheld and get all the separate little bits. that was the shot.
I knew the intro sequence was going to be really important in this film to properly set the scene. I wanted there to be loads of atmosphere and mood. The sequence was pretty straightforward to shoot. We had Sean stood on the rock, looking isolated, staring off into the fog, and then he walks back to his bike and rides off.
I needed the thing to come down as well. This is cool. This is really cool.
We did a couple of takes of the walk back to the bike on the gimbal, and then I got the pickup shots handheld afterwards. This camera and recorder combination works really well handheld because it's basically a cube. Everything just fits together so nicely. The BS1H doesn't have IBIS, so the rig needed to be nice and weighty to take out any micro jitter. I decided to power the whole rig via V-mount, which helped a lot with that. Personally, I'm a massive fan of an organic handheld look, and whilst IBIS definitely has its place, it's not something I particularly need or look for in my cameras. And then the 50mm wide open really did look stunning on that full frame sensor. A huge benefit of shooting ProRes RAW is the ability to adjust your white balance in post. I hadn't yet decided what kind of grade I was going to go for, so it was really nice to kind of not have to worry about white balance, knowing that I could push it warmer or cooler in post, depending what I felt was best. And it's really nice being able to preload your own custom LUTs into the Ninja. That's especially the case when you're shooting with a crew and talent. It's nice for everybody on set to kind of be able to get a good sense of what it's going to look like. The final job of the day was to get some kind of onboard shots with the camera rigged onto the bike and just a few moving shots from the van. I knew I didn't need too much of that, but it really helped in the edit just to give that slightly different perspective. One of the greatest strengths of this combination really is the rigging options. Thanks to the form factor, the size and weight, it can pretty much go anywhere. Really, the idea with the scenes of Sean in his home was to represent what place he was in at that period in time, so...
It had a very solitary feel about it.
Yeah, exactly. I had an idea to shoot an opening tracking shot where he walks in his front door, and I used some lighting there outside of the window to kind of simulate some moonlight. We left a tungsten lamp on in the corner, and really that was it. I also wanted to show him working, and I just filmed him editing, doing what he does. And then finally, I wanted to get some shots of him as if he's asleep, because I wanted to use the kind of opening and closing of his eyes as a transition into remembering where he was. That's what I would then use to transition into what kind of is his memories, really, of thinking back to those dark times. So on day 4 of production, we returned back to the same locations that we shot the intro to shoot the same scene again, but with different weather conditions, brighter, as a visual representation of Sean's mind clearing and his situation improving. So we returned back to that same rock that we used in the intro, which works so well for the intro. So the film is ending where it started, and I kind of really liked that element. I thought to myself it would be really cool to see if we could possibly rig this equipment onto a drone platform. So once I had that idea, I instantly thought of a friend of mine called Chris Watts. He's got his own company called Technical Films. Having discussed it with Chris, he thought it was a great idea. He thought it could definitely be done. So we wasted no time, and we literally got together a day later to kind of look at the equipment and work out how it could be done.
We'll just adjust the centre stick feel. So
Chris and Alex put a 3D printed model of a similar size and weight camera onto the drone itself, just to see how it handled. And then once they were confident, we started looking at trying to rig up the BS1H and the Ninja V. The benefit of shooting on an FPV platform would really be the ability to fly in very close proximity. Speed. You can be much more dynamic with your shots because of the agility of the system. We basically spent a whole day testing this gear, trying to come up with like kind of a custom solution so that we had full manual control over the shots as you would on the ground, but from a drone. I won't take credit for it, it's mostly Alex and Chris, but a lot of work went into making that possible because you had to make it as kind of small and compact as possible. So we decided that mounting the kit on a setup like this, on a stabilised gimbal, it would be a nice halfway house between the more kind of traditional aerials you get with heavy lifters and the crazy like dynamic style that comes with FPV. That way we could use the environment to get some really dynamic kind of sweeps and things like that.
Great. This is going to be absolutely brilliant.
There was a lot of tech there that had to be put onto this fairly small platform really. I think we were all surprised actually how well all of the equipment fitted together, and it meant that it would take 3 people to operate. You had to have a pilot, gimbal operator, so that you could frame the shots independently of the direction that the drone was flying in, and then you also needed a third person to pull focus as well.
This can all come across because look, the weight is now further across because of this.
It became apparent very quickly that the BS1H really is a great camera for this kind of setup. One of the best things about it is the ability to run HDMI and SDI at the same time. So we used the HDMI output to run the raw signal to the Ninja. Then we ran the SDI output to a wireless transmitter for monitoring. It really does make it perfect really for rigging onto hardware such as drones. We also then realised that I had a wireless focus system that would probably work for what we needed. So that then meant that we would have full control over all aspects of the shoot, which is exactly what we were looking for.
Go again.
Initially we weren't really sure what it would be like trying to attach the Ninja to this kind of setup, but it actually worked surprisingly well, and I think we were all quite impressed.
Ooh. Not going to be going that close in though, are we? So I'll be pretty scared. The propeller would be in space if it was that close.
We'd done some tests on the ground and it all seemed to be working okay. Then it was time to go out into the field then and put it up in the air for the first time.
Brand new.
Seeing it going up in the air for the first time wasn't scary at all. Never any doubt in my mind. Once we'd completed a few test flights and we were confident that all was working well, we were pretty much all set for the following day. Having arranged some private land with a road to operate from, we planned out a few key shots.
Channel 1.
I wanted it to be immediately apparent to a viewer that this is literally putting the rig that you've been using on the ground into the sky. Rather than big sweeping wide landscape shots, we wanted to go tight. And we wanted to shoot quite up close and personal to the bike and track the bike, not necessarily what you'd be used to seeing on a drone, that kind of tight field of view. We could pull in and out of the bike, could actually get some really nice depth of field in the shots, which is, you know, pretty unique for drone footage. So I decided to use a 35mm Canon FD lens on the drone as well as a 55mm.
Just wait, mate, it's just going to be gorgeous.
One of the massive benefits of this kind of setup would be that it would allow a DP to shoot with the same camera and lenses that they shot the rest of the project with, which is a huge benefit for kind of continuity, and it would open up all sorts of kind of creative options as well.
The first one, we're just going to try and hoover up some tight, just tracking shots. It's your firefighter setup.
It is. Alright, Sean, we'll get the drone in position, mate, and we'll tell you when to go, okay?
We wanted a few key tracking shots from in front and behind the bike, a few nice orbits, and then a couple of really dynamic shots, diving around trees and hedges and things like that. And then finally a nice rising shot with the bike riding off into the distance.
Yeah, this is good speed, nicely done. Okay, and now we're in shot. Okay, good.
Yeah, because I'm in 6K, I can punch in, so I think we might be better being further back.
I mean, that's really nice, that bit.
That bit there's nice.
As soon as I'm upside with him, I'll just be on your command. Speed.
As we were running a lot of very power-hungry tech on that setup, so it meant we only had a few minutes of flight time before having to bring her down, swap batteries out. I think this is where ProRes RAW really came into its own. With no ability to change camera settings when the drone is in the air, things like exposure would normally have to be well thought out beforehand.
Yeah, that's good, good speed. Come up higher a bit. Good speed, stay there.
Normally you'd want a different exposure for the shots that have the sky in frame and those that don't, but thanks to ProRes RAW I was able to simply expose for the sky, and then for the moments where the camera angle is pointed down at the bike at the ground, I knew I'd be able to raise the ISO in post, and as the BS1H and its full frame sensor handled low light conditions as well as a certain amount of underexposure really quite well, I had a lot of confidence in the kit. For a shoot like this, where there was absolutely zero time to waste, this really was a blessing, not having to bring the drone down just to change exposure. Shooting this in ProRes RAW really did make a big difference here.
That's when all the filters get cold, they go solid on.
Yeah, you can't.
Personally, I do actually think it's a bit of a game changer, this setup. Being able to rig this camera and recorder to a drone platform like this, it allows you to shoot full frame 12-bit footage in a RAW codec from the air. So you're getting crazy high quality footage that up until recently you probably would have gone to Red or ARRI to achieve. But this costs a fraction of the price. That just makes it more accessible to more people, and I love that.
And then once you lost the light, we'll the stuff or something maybe.
All in all though, I'm over the moon with what we managed to achieve here, because really I just wanted to see if it could be done. And yet in a very short space of time, we managed to come up with some really lovely looking shots. And perhaps this is a first for ProRes RAW and this kind of aerial setup. All in all, it was a great experience. I had so much fun and I learnt a lot, so I can't wait to work with these guys again, because next time we can build on what we've done here and be even more ambitious, and I find that really exciting.
Yeah.
I'd like to say a huge thanks to Chris and Alex for assisting me with this and making it happen.
I just kept my thumb where it was and it seemed to just work.
In summary, I'd say the BS1H and the Ninja V paired together were superb for this production. The form factor of the BS1H, that small, light, I mean it really is tiny. The rigging possibilities really are endless. The Ninja V was brilliant, rugged, bright, opened up the possibilities of ProRes RAW. Those two combined together really do take some beating.
Cool, thanks Tommy.
Cool, we done?
So, I'm looking forward to the next film.
Me too, me too.